Does anyone notice what's different about these problems compared to what we're on the front side? Something different? Anyone notice what's different? All right, so to talk about it, we have to isolate that absolute value first. So if the absolute value is not isolated, we have to do that first. Before we can set up our two equations, that was that first step that we kind of had skipped over on the other side of the paper. So I want to get this absolute value alone in number 4. So what are we going to do? How do I get that absolute value alone? Yeah. Yeah, so we're going to move this 5 over. So just slide that 5 over to the other side. And then I'll get 16 here, right? Now I have that absolute value isolated, so now this is where we can think about that hard idea, where what's underneath here could either equal 16 or negative 16. So now I'm going to set up my two equations. So negative 4x equals 16 or negative 4x equals negative 16. So I'm going to solve each of these. So we get 4 and negative 4 as our two answers. So the same thing needs to happen in number 5. We need to isolate that absolute value first. That one has a little bit more work to do though even. So when I talk about isolating the absolute value, I want to get just this part alone. So I want to move everything else away from that. So we're going to move that 5 over first before I set up my two equations. Then we're going to divide by 2. We have to get rid of that 2. And here's now where we set up the two equations. So once the absolute value is isolated, then we can set up our two equations. But until that happens, we have to leave it as 1. So x plus 3 equals 10. And x plus 3 is going to equal a negative 10. So we're going to solve those two equations. So we get 7 and negative 3. Negative 13. Yes, I can read. Yeah, thank you. At least I wrote the right thing, right? I don't know. Yeah. All right. So, what's different about number 6? Do you guys notice it? Why is number 6 different? Does anyone see right away what's happening in number 6? Yeah. What's that? Yeah, it's saying the absolute value is going to equal a negative. Do you guys remember what we said before we went outside? When will that ever happen? The absolute value is never going to equal a negative. That was our like third or second like little middle like thing here that we did. So when you guys see something like this, we can say that this is not possible. There's going to be no solution here. However, this next one, it's written kind of weird. Sorry for the weird font. I don't know why that's being so funky there. Now this next one equals a negative, but I want to point out something to you. So it's written kind of weird. I don't know, the font got strange there. Now this one equals a negative, but this one does have a solution. Does anyone see why? Yeah, Justine? Yeah, to isolate the absolute value here, we're going to end up with getting that to be a positive. So I'm going to divide this by a negative 2. So I get 10 plus 2x equals 6. So this is where now I can set up my two equations, because now it equals a positive. So we have both a positive 6 and a negative 6. So move this 10 over. So I find out that x can be negative 2. And I move the 10 over down here. And x is also going to be a negative 8. So for homework, I think I'm going to alter it a little bit. I think, I don't know what I have listed in Schoology, but I think we're just going to go to 31. I don't know if that's what, okay, here. Yeah, so you can cross out 42 and 43 there. So the 42 and 43 you can get rid of. 3 to 31 odds. And then you do have them online once you get, yeah, but until then, you can use a book.